Welcome back, divers. I am Cosmic.
I'm Shanda.
And go ahead and watch this video for us.
You got the right one here. You got the right one. I want you to play with mine. See, mine ain't gonna be in no game. You need to keep you a pistol. You let your little boys disrespect you and run your house, but mine don't run mine. I don't want them with your son. And I said what I said and I mean it. You don't run my house. I'm ready for you and yours. Oh, I'm a gangbanger too. A crazy one. Gang by my mammy over here. From the hood. That's where I come from. And he ain't big. I don't want your son at my house. You be stealing. You stealing people's clothes because you won't go get that baby no stuff. Come in my house like you did that lady next door. I'm the right one. You ain't gonna make it up out of here. Your mammy gonna have to bury you. And herself too. Because you raised them wrong. It's your fault, ho. You want to be your friend, your son's friend, smoking with him, having sex with all them different men. Let them see all that devil. Don't know that boy daddy. That's what's wrong with him. But you won't have him around that. I don't raise mine like that. You see where he go? He go to youth. He go to a different school. He ain't going to that school with yours. Go. I ain't even playing. I don't play with mine. Now I want you to keep on disrespecting me and think I'm something to play with. Y'all want little fake ass gangbangers. Y'all fake around here. Y'all ain't real. This ain't California. Y'all in Sarasota. The sorriest gangs I ever seen. Y'all ain't never did nothing. Run up on me. I'ma show you crazy. I'ma show you crazy.
So what do you have to say about the what I believe excellent parenting going on in this video?
I think that we need more moms like this to come back into the fold because, moms have it hard out there, especially if they're single parents, which unfortunately a lot of households are. We definitely need to go back to this kind of parenting because the kids are running amok.
Yeah, I think it's a little more than parenting too. It's also her talking to the other parent. That's also important, don't you think?
Well, yeah, but not like the parent's gonna listen. She's gonna get offended more than anything.
True.
And not really listen to anything that this lady is having to say to her. She's gonna be like, that bitch said. That's all that's going to be. But yes, her trying to is a positive.
Yeah.
Is the parent going to listen? I doubt it.
Probably not.
Because it's going to be that bitch thinks she's better than us, or that bitch think this, or who is she to tell me that? So, and that's what's wrong with our community today.
Right.
As we talk about, on many other videos, that you can't tell nobody nothing.
Right.
And that's why they're raising all these YNs running around, killing folks.
Right.
So, I think that, what's funny?
I was just about to say that.
Snatching on him and stuff.
Right.
And he's just like, like a rag doll. He's not like snatching away.
Right.
Or, now he knows
you
better.
see how big? Yeah, she looks like bodybuilder.
Yeah,
what is he going to do?
But you know what the funny part is? Why? the karate belt harness is like hilarious. But, I was thinking about this when I watched the video, and there are so many moms against violence groups out there.
Against the violence groups?
Yes,
what do you mean? What are violence groups?
So, Moms Against Violence, that's their group. Because they've lost their sons, the neighborhoods have lost sons, all of that. So they've gotten these groups together. What would be a trip is that if you had a billboard that had moms with like guns on their thighs and guns on their hips, because literally it takes that to keep your kid from the streets.
When you're black.
When you're black and living in certain conditions. Because you have to let those people, the gang members and stuff, know you're not going to get this one.
Right.
And sometimes you got to draw down on people.
Right.
I was reading this article, and there are gang members that are 5 years old.
Yeah, I believe it. It's like you hear that in songs all the time when they talk about, I jumped off the porch when I was 5, or they'll say something like Polo G has a has a verse, well, a little couple lines in his song where he says, at 5 years old, his pops taught him how to aim a Glock, and told him use this to protect your family. So and he said that's what he taught me. Yeah. So yeah, I know that to be the case. I know that to be true.
And how sad is that, though? How sad is that?
It's a really sad life that a lot of the impoverished Black community live, and
some Hispanics too,
because
they're very involved in gang activity as well.
They are.
Now, not to say other groups aren't either, but it's predominantly Hispanic and Black.
Well, you're part of the KKK when you're about 5 years old, so it's basically the same thing.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is absolutely true. But too, with the mom and kind of disciplining them both, if you will, her son and the neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't discipline your kid anymore. The law has stepped in and said you can't physically discipline your son or daughter anymore.
Well, that's always been the case, though, since I was in school.
Well,
it's just parents have stopped doing it.
You were in school, yes, but no. The law was like that when you were in school. I didn't pay no attention to it.
That's what I'm saying.
But it was. Because I always felt, when warranted, I'm going to beat the hell out of you depending on what you did.
It wasn't always warranted. Her version of warranted, and really that is not. Mm-hmm.
Because the first person they're going to look at when you get out there and fuck up is me. So it was just to make you feel better. Selfish. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying, it is my responsibility to make sure you guys grew up to be decent, productive citizens of society and not criminals, thieves, rapists, and murderers.
Right.
Okay. So I think that a lot of parents, though, they're afraid to discipline their kids because they're afraid to get CPS involved or whatever other acronym there are for different states, because once those people are involved, it's a mess.
Well, kids are a little bit different nowadays too, because they'll kill you. Mom, dad, doesn't matter. Grandma, they'll kill you these days. So over a phone. But I can't imagine them getting no whooping.
But no, because
and then feeling some type of way.
Why is that happening though? It happens because they did not bend the sapling while it was young. You see, and then they get up to 12 and 13 and try to discipline them. It's too late then.
You think so?
Absolutely. You have to start when they're young to let them know this is how the dynamic's going to work. As long as you're here, this is how it's going to work. But you can't wait until they're 12 or 13 to make that choice, because then they try to fight you back. See, I would kill my kid dead if they ever raised a hand to me.
She would.
Ever. And then, let the chips fall where they may after that.
Yeah.
No way.
Look, don't be burning a hole in the side of my face while you're talking. I see you.
Yeah. I would never put up with that. So, yes. We need more mothers like this. Just like those three YNs in Georgia. It happened in Conyers, I think the story said. And they were breaking in, kicking some man's door down at 4 a.m. I think they were 15, 16, and 17 or 15, 16, and 18, something like that. So my first question is, why are your teens out at that time of morning or night?
Well, see, how it works is, it's almost like so-and-so's parents aren't strict. So everybody goes to so-and-so's house. Or hell, nobody cares. Either the parents don't care, but I'm just saying, you go to whoever's parents are going to let you, run the streets because they, they feel like, go do what you want to do. And, you're outside. But in their case, they're probably,
just
it's probably the weekend.
About.
They're just out roaming,
Yeah, but at 4 o'clock in the morning, you should be at home in the bed, or if you're awake playing the game.
I was gonna say if you're gonna be
doing.
up, play the game, but who's to say they have one?
Well, that's yeah. I mean, there's parts of that's absolutely the case,
right?
But this is the kicker. You know, we're talking about parenting, right? So the parents of these 3 youngsters that are now dead. Mm-hmm. They were shot dead by the homeowner. Now they're calling for the owner of the home to be charged.
I think that's crazy.
Isn't that though? Just that whole thought process.
It's like, see, this is the stuff that bothers me about black people, because black people do this shit the most, in my opinion. It's almost like, you know good and damn well if somebody was banging on your door at 4 o'clock in the morning, kicking down your door, not just banging on your door, and then shoots at you, mm-hmm. and you kill him, you think that you deserve to be arrested regardless of if they were kids or not, because you're not worried about that. All you're worried about is your property and your life being at risk. So what would they be arrested for? I don't get that.
But the fact that the parents are trying to call for now, when the 2 of them were brothers. It was 2 brothers and 1 friend, right? Mm-hmm. So the fact that parents are even calling for the man's arrest instead of taking the L and saying, my kid had no business doing that.
Exactly.
And call it a day.
Exactly.
But instead, they're out there, and there was like a whole group of the family members, a whole group of them out there supporting this nonsense.
But and that's just, it's so crazy to me. And that's the very thing that's going to get us put under martial law in black communities. Stuff like that.
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. Yeah. It's just sad, We were lucky, me and my brother, when we were growing up, we didn't really have a lot of this environmental pressure. Mm-hmm. And that's where a lot of this activity comes from.
I didn't either.
Right.
Yeah, so I can't really...
We didn't have none of that. I mean, where I grew up, there's like a couple of, Hispanic gangs and stuff like that. They had some issues, but it was really kept among them. Mm-hmm. So it's not something that we, had to worry about, or my mom had to worry about.
Right.
So I can't imagine living in a community that is just, full of gang activity. And every time your kid goes outside, there's some sort of gang issue going on, or fighting, or stabbing, whatever the case. I can't imagine the job that moms have, and moms and dads trying to keep their child not only safe, but out of gangs.
Now, do you think that social media has an influence on
this? Absolutely.
Because now you're more exposed to these YNs and these just plain out niggas mm-hmm. that are running around in society doing mm-hmm. the worst. And growing up, when I was growing up, you had stuff like Gangland in like the first 48, but mm-hmm. It was never something that was just, if you wanted to
all in your face,
it wasn't all in your face 24/7 like it is now because of TikTok algorithms, which I love TikTok. I don't think that there's a problem with it, but I think some things are just for adults.
I absolutely believe social media has a huge role.
Social media has erased the boundary of this is for kids and this is for adults. Mm-hmm. And now everybody's kind of sharing the same space. Mm-hmm. And I think that's...
and that's not a good thing.
It's not a good thing.
It's not a good thing. I'm so glad I don't have young kids right now, growing up in this social media era.
Right.
I'm so glad, because kids tend to think that what they see on TikTok is real, mm-hmm. and that they can go home and act like that and do that. Mm-hmm. There'll be a whole bunch of dead kids messing around with parents that grew up in my era.
Why do you keep looking at me when you're saying that? It's almost like, boy, I swear, look, nobody's scared of you.
So, but yeah, this mom is doing her due diligence, and
and
trying to keep her kid safe.
And one thing I was super surprised about on this video, black videos like this don't usually get a whole lot of traffic. Mm-hmm. At most it might hit maybe 50K.
Right.
And it has 1.4 million reviews,
which is great.
So I thought that was great because that means that everybody's watching it, and everybody had a lot of positive things to say in the comments. For the most part, there's always the softies who are like, "Oh my gosh, this is just too much."
And you see how she's snatching him around?
Exactly.
But that's the problem, though. That's the problem with, because you know what? Right. Some kids don't need to be harshly disciplined.
It's true.
And some do. It just depends on the kid. Right. It just depends. I was one. I needed to be harshly disciplined. And my mom did not disappoint. But and my brother didn't. So it just all depends. It all depends on the personality. It just all depends. And I think she's doing exactly right because she knows her son. And apparently her son's been hanging out with this kid next door, which he steals, she said. Mm-hmm. So next thing you know, they'll be, getting called from the police station because they've been in there shoplifting somewhere. So she did the right thing. She did the right thing. And the son apparently listens because he, like I said, he wasn't snatching away and stuff. So she has him under control. I think a lot of other parents need to keep their kids under control.
Yeah, for sure.
There's far too many instances like what happened with these 3 young men.
Right.
In near Atlanta. It's just...
But a lot of the time, we have to think about who these people's parents are a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. They're worried about, some man, or they're at work. They're just absent and not involved with their kids.
And what they're
for
doing.
Whatever reason. They're worried about going out, doing whatever they're doing,
Well, just like the lady said to the neighbor, and you got all them men coming.
Exactly, and that's my point.
Just airing out all her business.
Right, and that's my point.
And that's what a lot of moms do. They're so worried about some man, right, and what he's doing and not doing, instead of worrying about the kids. That's what sucks about being a single parent. It's like, the man just walks off, right? And he just continues with his life. And it's up to the mom to kind of not have the life she wants because it has an influence on the kids.
You mean as long as she was under the impression that they were going to be together forever? Because
sometimes you get pregnant by, yes, that's the case.
Because ultimately, unless there was some foul play involved, women have more accountability than the men in that whole situation. Because
being that they're going to be saddled with the baby.
All of these
if
things
don't work out.
And I know not everybody's taught, okay, well, don't have kids unless you're married, or, all these little nuances, right, and little tidbits of advice that nobody ever takes when you're young. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, so, I mean, part of that's the mom's fault. I know you loved him, but, what was it really? I'm not going to say what was it worth, because, every mom says, oh my God, I got something good out of it. So, I mean, I guess. But then you also hear the argument, what about me? What about my life? And it's kind of like, that's why it's so important for young people, and myself included, to, in any situation, to think about the actions that you make, because sometimes they have long-term consequences or effects.
That's right.
And so life-altering effects. Mm-hmm. So, that sucks.
Yeah, it does. Well, moms out there that are doing this, keep up the good work. Keep up the good work and keep these kids where they need to be. A lot of people have daughters too that are acting a damn fool. So both boys and girls, just stay on them out there. I know it's hard, but it's a must, and we want to keep them safe too. So it's all a part of that.
Yeah. So, all right, guys, that's all I have for you today. You have anything else?
That's all I have, guys.
All right, guys. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know what you guys think about everything that was talked about here today, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.